We have a little bit of a surprise today. We don't have a surprise today? Well, let me tell you what, here's what we're going to do. We have, you know what happened 15 years ago today, correct? September 11th. An incredible disaster that forever changed the face of our country and, quite frankly, changed the face of our world. And on that day, there were thousands of people whose lives were impacted. And there were hundreds of people who demonstrated unbelievable courage in the face of incredible adversity. And those were our first responders. And so what we wanted to do today in our service was to honor our first responders and actually have the opportunity to personally say thanks to some of our first responders. Unfortunately, our first responders have responded. And so we can't do it, all right? So maybe we can do it at the end of service, all right? We'll see how that goes, okay? But anyways, I would just encourage you to take the opportunity, if you have it, today, to just thank a first responder, whether it's a fireman or a policeman or a paramedic or someone who regularly exposes themselves to some craziness to protect and serve the lives of others. That's a great call, all right? And so I encourage you to do that, and hopefully we'll be able to, if we can do that, you guys just give me the cue. We'll do it at the end, all right? Good. So we're starting a brand new teaching series today, and we're calling it Making Space. All right? So let me just ask you a question. Have you ever just felt like, I'm just tired. It's full. Life is full. I've used all my time. I've used up all my energy. I've used up all my money. I just have no space. Anybody ever feel like that? Good. Okay. So, normally what happens is, and when I'm preparing to teach a series or to teach on a particular topic, what will happen normally is God will actually really begin to bring those things to the surface in my life. And we had this past weekend, like Friday night, like things just fell apart in my house. And I'm not talking like my sink fell apart. Like, people fell apart in my house. Has that ever happened in your house? I mean, listen, normally we functioned fairly civilly. Friday night, I literally thought, I'm going to have Joe, I'm going to have to call Joe and have him teach on Sunday because I'm going to kill somebody. Or somebody's going to kill me, right? It was like things just fell apart. Like, people were crying and people were yelling. And I know this doesn't happen in your house, but it did happen in mine. And the crazy thing is that Sherry and I sat down and talked. We began to look back over the last, since the 1st of July, and what we realized is that things have spun out of control. And here's what I realized is that, there's been no space. Like, every single possible moment has been filled with some form of activity, and there's been no breathing room. There's been no space. There's been no margin. Like, here's what I realized. Let me ask you guys this. Do you feel like when you're tired and when you're maxed out emotionally, when you're maxed out physically, when you're maxed out financially, are you more likely to be a good person or not? Like, are you likely to be happy when you're maxed out? Right? This is my experience. I find that when I'm maxed out, I hope I don't see any of you guys on the road. Right? And in fact, I actually did encounter one of you guys on the road once. I was maxed out. I was impatient, I was busy, and I got behind one of you guys, and you later sent me an email, which was very kind. Thank you, and I appreciate that. But the truth is, when there's no space in our life, when we're maxed out physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, financially, the truth is we become a little bit dysfunctional. We function out of anger. We function out of impatience. We function out of stress. I'm reading a book right now by a guy named Richard Swenson called Margin. Anybody ever hear that book? My gosh, I want to do yourself a favor and pick this book up. We're going to post a link to it on our Facebook page later today, facebook.com/mychurch180. And in this book, he talks about margin. He basically says margin is the space between what you're able to do and what you're currently doing. Right? So, for instance, in a financial illustration, if you make $100 but you only spend $80, you've got a margin of $20. Speaking in terms of energy, if you're able to function at 100 and you spend 99, you've got a margin of 1. And here's the truth. Most of us are living at about a 95 to 100. There's not a lot of margin in there. And there's a couple of things that happen in there. When there's no margin in our lives, you know what? We tend to function Out of stress, we tend to function. Out of impatience, we tend to say things that we later regret. The other thing is this: when there's little to no margin in our lives, we don't always have the capacity to respond to God's call in our lives. If God says to us, I want you to take some time and go spend with this individual whose life is falling apart, you say, I'd love to, God, but have you seen my calendar? Or I would like you to take a little money and go help this person who genuinely needs some help. And you say, I love to, God, but have you seen my budget? There's no space in my budget. And in his book, Richard Swenson says this. He says that margin, look at this. He says, pain and the absence of margin are related. In other words, when we're functioning with no margin, when we're functioning with no space in our life, the truth is that we're going to say things and do things and act in ways that create stress, that create harm, that hurt ourselves and the people that we love. Now, the truth is, there are topics that I could talk to you about and say, I'm actually doing really well in this area. If you live your life like I'm living my life, you'll do well, right? And you have areas in your life where you could say that to me or to us. Like, if you live your life like I'm living my life in this area, you'll do well, right? And then there's other areas, and this is one of them where I feel like I need to say to you, let's put our arms around one another's shoulders and make a journey towards the life that God wants us to live. And that's a life with some space in it. That's a life that has some margin. That's a life that has some room, right? Financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So in preparation for this, I began to feel like God was saying, this is something that I need in my life. It's something that probably a lot of us in our church need to hear, this idea of space. So I began to read through the scriptures and say, what are some things, what are some stories, what are some principles that God would teach us with regards to this conversation? And I found this story of Moses, and probably a story that you've heard before, but I wanted to go back and share it with you. It's a story of Moses. Now, you know who Moses is, right? Like, tell me something. What do you know about Moses? Oh, my God. We got to go all the way back to the beginning, don't we? He floated in the river. There you go. What else do you know about Moses? He built an ark. Well, that was close, but right, good try. Thanks for helping, right? So, all right, well, let me just guide this conversation a little bit, okay? How about 10 Commandments? All right, he did the 10 Commandments. That's kind of a cool one. How about this? Did you know that Moses was like one of the patriarchs of the nation of Israel? Like George Washington is to America, Moses would be to Israel. So he was a really busy man who did a lot of really good things. And he, in the process of leading and developing this young nation, Israel, he was so busy and his schedule was so full that he actually had to send his family away, his wife and his 2 sons. He sent them away to live with her parents for a while so he could be about the business of building a nation and be about the business of leading a military. It was a really busy life. Now, he was doing good things, but it was a really busy life. So after some time had passed, this fledgling nation is growing, building roots, and they're growing up and they're maturing as a nation. Moses' father-in-law said, well, let's take you to his daughter and the boys, let's go see Moses. And so they did. They went to see Moses, and in Exodus chapter 18 is where we pick this up. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, he rolls into town with Moses' wife and the kids, and Moses starts telling about all the stuff that's going on, and Jethro's like, this is amazing. Like this nation that you're leading, the military that you're building, the military conquest that you've had, this is extraordinary. Like, you're really doing good stuff here, Moses. And so, that evening they settled in and they went to bed. And the next day they got up and Jethro said, why don't I go with you today and just kind of observe what you're doing at work, right? And Moses said, well, all right. I mean, that kind of be like, that's kind of crazy. It'd be like saying to the President Obama, like, hey, let me just go with you and see what you're doing. But that's what Jethro said. Let me go with you, see what you're doing. So he did. And in Exodus chapter 18, verse 13, this is what went down. The next day, Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other. That sounds like a parent, doesn't it? Right? All right, but it says, all day long, these people came before him from morning till night, and they would say, this is basically what happened. Moses would sit in his chair, and the people would come to him, and they would say, this person, they stole my cow. And Moses would have to figure out, like, did you steal the cow, or, like, what was the whole thing? And he'd have to settle the argument. And that argument would be done. And this person would come and say, this person owes me a debt, and they're not paying. And Moses would have to figure this out all day long, doing good things, right? Fixing people's problems all day long. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he asked, and this is the question that is absolutely riveting to me in this conversation about making space. Look what he asked. He said, "What are you really accomplishing here?" And when I read this question, it gives me pause because I look at my calendar, I know it's busy from morning till night. It's go, 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 do. And I look at the things that are being done and I realize, hey, there's not a lot of bad stuff on here, right? And I bet if you were to take pause and look at your life and ask yourself this about the way you're spending your time, ask yourself this about the way you're investing your energy, ask yourself this about the way you're spending your money, ask yourself this question: what am I really accomplishing here? This is what his father-in-law asked him. He said, why are you doing this all alone, right? Everyone's standing around you watching. And Moses said, well, look, because they come to me because they're expecting to hear a word from God. Like, I'm the leader. I'm the person charged with getting all this stuff done. So that's why I'm doing this. His father-in-law said this is not good. What you're doing isn't good. Look at this. You're going to wear yourself out and the people too. Now, let me just say this real quick because this is important. People who have no space in their lives, you don't only hurt yourself, you hurt the people around you as well. If you're a parent who functions with no space in your life, not only are you doing yourself harm, but you're doing your children harm. If you're a businessman who functions with no space in your life, you not only do yourself harm, you do your employees harm. If you're an individual who functions with no space in your finances and no space in your energy, you're not only hurting yourself, you're hurting the people around you. And this is what Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, looked at him and said, listen, I know you're doing a lot of good things from morning till night, but there's no space. And if you keep functioning like this, it's not sustainable and you will hurt yourself and the people around you. He went on to tell him, he said, look, you got to do something different. You got to start giving some stuff away. You got to start delegating. There's that D word, right? You got to start passing off responsibilities. And next couple of weeks, we're actually going to spend some time talking about how to make space, all right? I don't want to talk so much about that today. There's a question I want to ask you in just a minute. But listen, Moses' father-in-law said, listen, if you will begin to make space in your life, here's what's going to happen. Look what he said. You will be able to endure the pressures, and all these people will go home in peace. In other words, it is possible to be a really important person doing really important things and still have peace in your heart, have space in your life, and have the people that are looking to you for answers have peace in their hearts. Isn't that amazing? It's possible to experience that. I mean, Moses was the leader of a nation. He was a general in an army. He had a lot of stuff going on. And yet his father-in-law said, look, it is absolutely possible for you to endure this stuff and for the people that look to you to go home in peace. Now listen, my guess is that in this room, there are probably some people who are up to here, right? With stress, with anxiety, it's crazy. I looked up the other day on all of the illnesses that are stress-induced, right? And stress most often is a result of living a life with no space, no margin, no extra. All of the illnesses that are induced from a life with no space, it's unbelievable the result of living a life like that. Now listen, here's what I want to say to you. Moses' father-in-law looked at him and said, what are you really accomplishing? You're busy. You go all day long. You do all this stuff. It's good, but what are you really getting done? And so when I look at this, and I'm pondering this, I'm thinking about this in my own life, this is the question that comes to mind, and it's a question that I want to ask you. What's done when I'm done? After a week of nonstop activity, after a week of go, 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 spend, 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 invest, 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 what has actually been accomplished? Now, here's the truth. I've found that the things that stressed me out so much last month, I can barely remember. Do you guys have that? Like we get so stressed out about, oh my God, I got to get this done. Oh my God, I got to be there. I got to do this. I got to prepare for this. I'm not ready for them to come. On and on and on and on and on. And a month later, you barely remember all those things that caused you stress, that took up that extra space in your life. And so what I want for us to do today as we kick off this series about making space is I really want us to wrestle with this question. What's done when I'm done? Is it important? Is it something that will matter a year from now? Is it something that will matter to my kids when they're grown? Are the things that are taking up the space in my life, are they actually important? Now listen, I know as well as anybody that Sherry told me this the other day. She said, I'm getting ready to throw in, now if you don't know, we have a family of 6 kids and 2 adults, so this will make sense. She said, I'm getting ready to throw in the laundry a load of 100 pairs of underwear. That's a lot of underwear, right? So I know as well as anybody the value of doing the insignificant. That you got to do laundry, you got to prepare food, right? You got to clean the house, you got to. I understand all that stuff, and I'm not saying that we ignore that. What I'm saying is, are the things that are consuming the lion's share of our life, are they really gonna matter a year from now? The things that are consuming the space in our lives. So I'm listening to this conference the other day with Michael Hyatt, and we're gonna link to him. He has an online conference called Free to Focus. It's a great conference. I'd encourage you to take part in it. It's an online, it's free conference. But he asked this question that gets right to the heart of what we're talking about this morning. He said, more important than how can I be more productive is the question, what kind of life do I want? It's amazing. If you get online, how many productivity apps there are. Anybody ever done this kind of searches? Like, you can find all kinds of productivity apps. You can find all kinds of time management systems. You know, I read recently that that 41% of our to-do lists never get accomplished. Anybody else have that experience? 41% of the things that we actually put on our to-do list never get accomplished, but those are the things that consume our mind. They consume our space. They consume our energy. And the truth is, if there's no space in your life, here's my experience, and I've seen it a lot of other people's experiences as well. When there's no space in your life, guess what gets kicked to the curb? The important things. For instance, when I see people that I haven't seen in a while at church, right? And I don't even say anything. But you know what they say to me right up front? They say, man, I've been meaning to get to church, but I've been so... I go to the gym. I see people that I haven't seen in the gym for a while. I see them in the store. I'm like, man, where you been? I've been missing you at the gym. You know what they say? I've just been so... You know what happens when we get so busy? We stop paying attention to our kids. We stop working on our budgets. We stop pursuing the dream that God has actually given us because there's no space. When there's no space, honestly, guys, the most important things go first. I think this is an incredibly appropriate question. What's more important than how can I be productive is the question, what kind of life do I want? In other words, it's possible to be really productive and get a lot of stuff done, but at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, you look back and say, I was busy and I did a lot of things, but did it really matter? Again, the question, what are you really accomplishing here? I would just say to you that the answer to that question is, what are you really accomplishing here? I think if we could answer these 3 questions, it would be a good day, a good week, a good year. Is my faith deeper? Have I done things today that make my faith deeper? So, for instance, if at the end of the day, like, have you done things that have nurtured your faith? Have you spent time in Scripture? Have you spent time in prayer? Have you spent time asking hard questions with a mentor? Have you spent time in worship? Have you done something in that day that makes your faith deeper? Because let me tell you that will actually make you a better person. A deeper faith will actually make you a better person. And it matters a year from now. It matters 2 years from now. If you can answer this question, is my faith deeper? If you can answer that affirmatively, then you've used that space well, I would argue. A second question that is worth asking is this: are my relationships stronger? At the end of the day, if I look back, have I done things to invest in the important people in my life? Is my relationship with God stronger? Is my relationship with my wife, with my children, with my friends, are these things stronger because of what I did here? Have I accomplished anything of significance? The third question I think is important to ask, is my vision clearer? See, I believe, and we believe at our church, that God has given everybody something unique and specific and important to do. He's placed a call in our lives. Can you say at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the year, my vision is clearer. I'm getting closer. I'm actually making progress on becoming the man and on becoming the lady that God is calling me to be. I'm using that space well. Can you do that? Now, let me just throw this out here. Have you ever found yourself thinking, it will get better? It's going to change. You ever find yourself thinking that? Like you're really busy, you're like it's going to change. It'll go away, it'll pass. My experience is, and it's not just mine, it's the experience of a lot of people, and quite frankly, it was Moses' experience as well. Nothing changes until something changes. It's not going to change unless I do something. It's not going to change unless it's very possible to spend a lifetime complaining about how busy we are, how little resources we have in terms of time and energy and money, how weak spiritually we are, how fragile our relationships are, how weak physically are. It's possible to spend a lifetime complaining about that because we haven't made any moves towards making change in our lives. I think we deceive ourselves by thinking it'll change. Because if we don't change something, nothing changes at all. And so my question to you today is this. What's done when I'm done? When I've done all of this activity, when I've spent all this time, when I've spent all my money, when I've invested all my energy, what's done? And then the question that Jethro asked Moses, what are you really accomplishing here? Have you done something that's significant? Have you done something that's important? Is your faith stronger? Are your relationships stronger? Is your vision clearer? Are those things done? Now, Moses actually listened to his father-in-law's advice. He made some changes. In Exodus 18, when Moses was hearing from his father-in-law, he was a man who was under stress. He was under pressure. He was not going to make it. His father-in-law said, if you keep going like this, you're not going to make it. And the people around you, they're going to be disappointed and frustrated, and they're not going to have peace in their lives. But if you make some changes, Moses, if you make some changes, things will be well. Moses apparently made changes because in Deuteronomy chapter 34:7, it says this. Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyesight was clear, and he was as strong as ever. Here's a man who made some changes in his life. He did some things. He made some decisions and rearranged some priorities in his life. He made space. And you know what? He died strong, and he left a strong nation. The people around him were well. Now, I think as a parent, I think as an employer, I think as a citizen, I think as someone involved in a relationship with other people, this is a question that all of us absolutely have to wrestle with. And that is this. What's done when I'm done? And does it matter? Is it significant? I don't know if you've ever heard of Bonnie Ware before, but she is a nurse who cares for people as they're dying. And she's had a lot of conversations with people on their deathbed and asked a lot of questions. And afterwards, she began to notice some trends in their conversations. And so she's done some writing on this. And we're going to post an article that she wrote on our Facebook page later today. But in her conversations with people who were dying, she noticed that they often expressed regrets. And she said the 5 most common regrets are these. Let me give it to you from number 5 backwards. The 5th most common regret that people facing death expressed was this. I wish I would have let myself be happier. I wish I just would have laughed more. I wish that would have been true. I wish I would have done that. Number 4, I wish I would have stayed in touch with my friends. Number 3, I wish I would have had the courage to express my feelings. Number 2, I wish I didn't work so hard. And number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. Number 1 regret. And so as we kick off this series, I have to ask you this question. This is what I really want for us to do this week. would you please take some time and go to Starbucks or go to wherever your coffee shop is or wherever your quiet place is and give thought to this question. What's done when I'm done? At the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the year? Have I just done things that other people want me to do? Have I spent my energy doing things that really don't matter to me, becoming the man that God wants me to be? Have I spent all of this energy and time and resources becoming somebody that God did not make me to be? Does it matter, all of this busyness? Does it matter at all? And the second question is the question that Moses' father asked him. What are you really accomplishing here? Does it matter? Are you using the space that you have well? The financial, the physical, the energy, are you using that space well? So this week as we begin this series, this is the question I have for you. This is it. There's no action step. Next week we're going to start talking about how to make space and how to get about that. But I really hope that you'll join me in processing this question. What am I really accomplishing with the way I spend my life? Does it matter? And so what I want to do today is we're going to sing a song, The Good, Good Father, and we're just going to be quiet and just spend this last couple of minutes together. I'm just going to say a prayer to God. And Father, as we start preparing our hearts for this last moments together, I pray, Jesus, that you will, in these moments, God, begin to dig into our hearts. Our calendars are full. Our lives are busy. Our finances are maxed. Our energy is like it. There's not much. It feels like we're running on fumes. And I pray, God, that you will help us to take some time and stop and think and wrestle with these questions. What am I really accomplishing? In 20 years, am I going to look back and say, what did I really do? Will we be happy with the life that we've lived, with the way we've used up our space? We'll be happy with that. Will you be happy with that? Help us to wrestle with these questions, God, as we prepare, Lord, to begin a process of making space in our lives. Now, I know, God, as we sit down and we think about our lives, there inevitably will be some regrets. There will inevitably be some things we wish we would have done differently. And in those moments where we feel guilt, where we feel anguish, where we feel regret, maybe even some despair, remind us of the words of this song. You're a good, good Father. And you love us. And you love us well. And from this foundation of your love, we can begin to make some changes in our lives. The way we use our space. So that we can become the men and the women that you've called us to be. Father, hear our song, hear our hearts. And remind us throughout the week to wrestle with this question well. As we begin the process of making space in our lives in Christ's name.